Welcome back. Adam here, giving a 5-minute update today on a stock that I was buying back in 2021. The company is Novonix. The last time I covered Novonix was December 2021. They had recently announced their partnership with Phillips 66, who are a significant shareholder in Novonix, actually, which essentially ensures a steady supply of the raw material that they need in order to produce their synthetic graphite. There were also rumors at that point that VW were going to be an offtake partner, although I haven't actually heard anything about that since. So that one seems to have gone a little bit cold for the moment. They had also started work on their factory in the US, which is going to produce the anode materials, which is that synthetic graphite that I talk about. They were at that point seeking their NASDAQ listing in the US as well. The share price back then was around €6 per share. Market cap was well over 3 billion US dollars, and revenue was a measly $6 million a year, Australian dollars, that is. Of course, a lot has changed between December and now. The S&P 500, which remember consists primarily of companies who actually make money, is down about 20% in that time. The Nasdaq since December is down almost or around 30% in the same period. So as you can imagine, Novonix has not fared too well, losing around 3/4 of its value. Now at 152, where we are at the moment, it's sitting very close to its 1 year or 12-month lows at 141. In fact, we may have bounced off that yesterday, or 146 it got down to yesterday. And apart from the market being very risk averse at the moment and nobody really wanting to own loss-making companies, it's also been pretty slow on the news front over the last 6 months. And let's be honest, it's regular positive news being fed to investors that props up the share price of a company like Novonix. Investors in a company like this need to be excited about the potential for future cash flows, but that hasn't happened too much recently. We did have the strategic investment in Core Power. That was back in January, which is positive news. Maybe not as substantial as VW might have been, but again, it does insulate their model. The input is secure from Phillips 66, and the output is somewhat secure now with Core Power. We did see that NASDAQ listing go ahead as well back in February. So you can now buy ADRs, which are a little bit more expensive or look more expensive, but they're equivalent to 4 ordinary shares in Novonix. Again, positive news, and it gives a lot of US-based investors better access to Novonix. It didn't do a huge amount for the share price, and it may have even been an opportunity for some people to offload some shares, buy the rumor, sell the news type of situation. Since February, though, it has been very dry. We've seen them ring the closing bell. We've seen them talking at a few conferences and battery days, but nothing huge. Most recently, we did get an announcement of another partnership between Emera Technologies and Novonix to design and build microgrid batteries. So in residential developments, new residential developments, I guess, where each house has solar panels, they can link to one larger battery, which manages the usage and distributes the energy more efficiently than just feeding the power back into the grid when no one's using it. That is exciting, and it shows another big market for them outside of EVs. So although there's been a couple of bits of positive news in there, it hasn't been enough to maintain those lofty valuations that we had back here in December. But does that mean that Novonix is dead weight and it's heading to zero? Well, I hope not, because I still have a long position in this one. Of course, in the near term, and I would say near term meaning over the next couple of months, It's pretty impossible to know what's going to happen, the way the markets have been behaving. There's a lot going on at the moment. I think in this situation, it is important to return to the fundamentals. We already know that Novonix are aiming for 10,000 tons of output by the end of next year, 2023. It is quite difficult to find solid data on what synthetic graphite will sell for in the US. If you go and do a little bit of research, so a little bit of digging, it'll be this figure that tends to come up quite a lot, 20,000 US dollars. Keeps coming up in different articles. It does seem to be the same source that they keep quoting, which isn't ideal. I did manage to find this separate quote here, separate article suggesting 5,000 to 14,000 per ton, and that was back in March 2020, which once you factor in inflation in commodities plus a premium for a high grade product produced in the US, that would kind of support a 20,000 per ton selling price, but you never really know what they've had to agree with early offtake partners just to get those deals over the line. But 10,000 tons at $20,000 a ton by the end of 2023, that's revenue of 200 million next year, with ambitions beyond that to scale to 150,000 tons by 2030. So the numbers are pretty significant just from anode materials. That's before we factor in cathode materials, which will come online between now and then, and probably has similar potential, you would say. That's without the development and the innovation arm as well. So it's really undervaluing the business as a whole just by looking at anode materials. I'm also a big believer that everything that's happening in the world at the moment is moving in favor of Novonix. And once they start recognizing income from anode materials in their accounts, the market will have to revalue the company. I'm betting that that revaluation that I talk about will happen before the end of 2022. The date that you'll read about a lot is the end of 2023. That's when Novonix aim to be producing 10,000 tons of synthetic graphite per year. But don't forget, in the article that I covered back in December's video, they stated that they want production online by the end of 2022, within the next 6 months. That is why we should see a slow ramping up of capacity this year. And I want to be on board as that happens and not after. So for me, at €1.50 per share, Novonix is well worth the risk. Let me know your thoughts on this one, in particular, if anyone has a good idea of what synthetic graphite will actually sell for in the US. Thank you for watching and see you next time.